live from New York. It's a show that is. We're on the cutting edge of medicine, bro.
Yeah,
we're coming up with some new stuff.
Wilds and I read a story from 25 years ago about Roy Oswald shocking his shoulder into a Cy Young
on a spark plug, and it cured his injury.
Yeah. You know, it's a lot of, listen, back in the day, man, Larry Bird probably would have been the GOAT, but he was working on his driveway.
Things if he was working on his truck, he would have
hurt that back.
Exactly.
Another MVP. Yeah. We sound like a popular pod.
No, all the popular podcasts there are like stuffing or dressing, pumpkin pie or sweet potato. It's the worst content in the world. It's true. Listen to all your podcasts. They're like, tell me now, turkey or ham.
Don't look at me.
Don't be lazy.
We're starting with the running Ravens. Baltimore bounces back after last week's loss to the Steelers. Run all over the Chargers, 212 yards. They're supposed to have a great rush defense. Derrick Henry has 140. Lamar ran for a touchdown, threw 2 more. Brew, did you like what you saw from the Ravens?
What does it look like? Of course I did, because I love it when my boys go into somebody's home.
I forgot it was on the road.
Especially a mansion, a luxurious mansion like SoFi Stadium, and take over. All right? They make themselves at home. They kick up their feet on the coffee table and start ordering people around. Khalil, turn on the television. And since we from Baltimore, put on the wire. Jim, go get me your favorite robe. I want to make myself comfortable. Justin, I'm hungry. So get me a sandwich, some chips, and yes, a soda pop to quench my thirst. That's what the Ravens did. That's what I've been telling them to do all season long, and they did it. Nick, they bullied some bullies. Because Jim Harbaugh came into L.A. and changed everything around.
Yeah.
Right? Who needs the forward pass? We tough.
Forward.
We gonna run up and down the football field and not let you score. Until last night. They hadn't given up 30 points in a game. Until last night. Oh, you run the football so well. They got 80 yards. And the Ravens rushed for 200 plus. Got down 10. And thankfully, I think John Harbaugh might be watching the buzz list. Got down 10 points and did not go away from the run. They kept giving it to Derrick Henry, and he did his thing. And most importantly, Nick, the defense. Now, I get it. The Chargers aren't, a light show offensively.
They've got Justin Herbert.
Justin Herbert is a very good quarterback. They don't have the best receivers, but hey, their receivers got very little separation. This was second week in a row the Ravens defensive backs look good. All right? Without Roquan Smith, they shut down the run.
True.
So the defense the offense is good enough. The defense has to come along, and they did last night. So, yes, I'm happy.
Well, you deserve to be happy. That was a great win. Now, I think there is a misconception, about what I think of Lamar or think of the Ravens. Because people were surprised when I picked them to win yesterday on the show. Nobody that's won multiple MVPs and that wins, 76% of his career games, I don't think Lamar is Tua, where you play a good team, you get beat. I don't think Lamar is, early edition Kirk Cousins, where 1 o'clock on a Sunday, you're great. Sunday night or Monday night, you're bad. In fact, he's unbelievable on Monday Night Football. My Lamar criticism is very specific to the playoffs and what I perceive to be his 2 biggest challengers, be a divisional rival and obviously everyone's challenger, the Chiefs. I know you two think I'm cherry picking there. I don't feel that way, but regardless. But there is, my pushback in general has been a narrative one, which is, and Brew, to your credit, you didn't do it there at all because you gave credit where it was due, which was Lamar was very good yesterday. But to me, the story was they did stick with Derrick Henry. They did run the football. And because it feels very often like when they lose, it's why didn't they run the football? And when they win, it's a lot of this from our friends at CBS Sports, this type of thing. Lamar Jackson, first in everything, MV3. And again, I thought Lamar played well yesterday, but I didn't think Lamar was, watching that football game, I didn't think his performance was the story of the game. I thought it was primarily, actually, the Ravens defense toughening up for, in my opinion, the first time really all season. I know they played fine against Pittsburgh, but Pittsburgh's offense, to me, has a pretty defined ceiling. So I thought it was their best defensive performance against a real quarterback and a real offense, and a quarterback that the last 6-7 weeks, they have been throwing the ball in Los Angeles after running it mostly, and that Derrick Henry, it feels like Derrick Henry and Saquon are both rooting for each other, but also both want that damn rushing title, or both want the Offensive Player of the Year if MVP is going to be a quarterback-only thing. So that's my takeaway. I think that this was a game I expected the Ravens to win, and I want to add one other thing to it. It wasn't mentioned on the broadcast. Maybe this is something that's more interesting to me than other people, but the importance of that game for Baltimore was massive, and here's why. Had they lost, the Chargers they'd be 7-5, and the Chargers be 8-3. The difference between the 5 and the 6 seed, I think, is enormous, and they would have been in terrible shape to get the 5 seed because they've been 2 losses and Chargers have a tiebreaker. 5 seed gets to go to Houston and play. The 6 seed is either going to be at the winner of the AFC East, Buffalo, or the winner of the AFC North, which Pittsburgh, we know. Now, by the way, that might be Baltimore now that they won, but you understand, had they lost. So I thought it was a very important game, and they fell down 10-0, and then went on a 30-7 or 30-6 run. I thought it was a great win by Baltimore.
All right, Brew, I want to show you this gutsy play call and see what you think, because you usually do not like going for it.
I cannot wait. This is my favorite topic on the show.
Sometimes you do like going for it. They're at their own 16. I thought it was initially going to just be like a draw, the Chargers offside. They end up going for it, and they ended up getting a touchdown out of it. Did you like this decision?
Did it work?
Well, yes, it worked.
Then I liked it. I mean, seriously, I liked it because it worked. I'm going to be honest. I would not have gone for that.
Okay, thank you.
On 4th and at your own 16.
I liked it.
I liked it because it worked. If it didn't work, I would have been,
If it didn't work.
Going crazy on John Harbaugh.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, look, at your own 16. The other
in a 3-point game.
Right. And it's the second quarter. It's not like you didn't have much time left. You had a whole half left to make up those points. But, it worked out for him, and that was fortunate. I think, look, and you mentioned in the top the Chargers' rush defense. They don't give up a lot of yards rushing, but they're one of the worst. Like, they give up 4.8 yards a carry. Only 3 teams, Dallas among them, give up more yards per carry rushing the football. And so I think Baltimore felt like, because even before Henry really had some of those huge runs, he was getting 5 yards here, 3 yards on a couple. But I just felt like they thought, look, we can push them around enough. I know they just did a tush push, but still, we can push them around enough to get these 4th downs. And it ended up working out for them. But no, at your own 16, I wouldn't have went for that. Would you have gone for that? Well, at the 16?
No, not at that point in the game, not where if the Ravens defense at that point in the game had shown no resistance, then maybe, but they had already stiffened a bit. And so
first drive was tough,
right.
But
and I don't love, to be honest with you, if I am going to go for it, I'm not doing the tush push to my aging tight end. So there was a lot of it.
I like that, actually.
Well, certainly you don't want to do it with Lamar.
No, I know, right. So I probably am running a different play, but I first want to compliment Brew for the honesty. Because it was not lost upon me watching that this is against the Chargers, who Brew did everything he could to run poor Brandon Staley out of the NFL.
Was I right?
Yeah.
You
were more about take the points. Though,
no. It was stuff like this.
Staley was ridiculous. It was
stuff exactly like that. Which is
all the time.
It's stuff that, and Aikman, to his credit, also was not bashful about the fact of, I wouldn't have done that, but it worked out. There is a huge amount on any of the fourth down discourse on any of the shows of playing the result. And it is like that was not even guaranteed to make this show today. I'm glad. I don't think it'll make a lot of shows today. Had it failed, it would definitively be one of the leading topics, especially if the Ravens had lost. What I respect about John Harbaugh is he went for it there, and then he made it clear it's a fourth down game. They went for it 3 more times later in the game, and none of them were as risky as that one.
Right.
I don't feel super passionately about it. I think that the numbers kind of say that 4th and less than 1, unless you are blowing a team out and just kind of playing out the clock, should be a go in all circumstances.
That's what
and
so you get more.
Right, you're just going to get such a disproportionate
play.
amount of them. And so I don't hate it. I also, being honest, if I were coaching in that spot, probably wouldn't have done it because I didn't think it to me, added variance where I do think Baltimore's better than the Chargers. That's the other piece for me. Like, people wonder, why is Andy Reid so conservative? And because he actually is one of the more conservative fourth down coaches.
A lot of field goals.
It's partly because he believes I have the best team.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? So I felt Baltimore is the better team than the Chargers, so I might not have done it. But I just get frustrated, and so I give Brew credit when folks, only like it when it works and don't like it when it doesn't. And Brew, being honest, he would have hated it and been beside himself. If that was 17-7 at the half, which it could have been, then it's a totally different situation. But he was playing it as, if we punted here, it might be 17-7 at the half, and now no one will blame me for that, but we're in just as bad a shape.
And he clearly saw something where we can push them around a little bit.
Well, they called a timeout.
Oh,
No, it was 2-minute warning.
Oh, it was 2-minute warning. So they did the fake thing.
They did the fake thing, did a
2-minute
warning, and so that the other piece of it that I think, sorry, just nerd out for another 20 seconds, that I think people don't always fully think about is, let's say Harbaugh was really worried about his defense. In that spot, there is an added benefit of there's 2 minutes left in this half. If I punt, I could give up a touchdown. I'd rather run the risk of giving it to you this close because then I'll get the ball back and get a chance to get points of my own this half. You know what I mean? So there are a lot of kind of branches of the game tree there.
Far.
No, that's not too far. That's part of the math on it. It's also why you don't go for the goal, the 4th and goal from the 1 with 10 seconds left in the half. Because part of the reason you do that is because they'll be backed up.
Too much nerd talk. Head to Dallas, where we assumed that Mike McCarthy was on a lame duck deal and just playing out the string before Belichick or Coach Prime got the call. Well, maybe not. We were just running Jerry Jones as you get your robe off. Are you buying that McCarthy could come back, bro?
Look, I don't think he'll be back, but I think it's possible. Just with Jerry, you just don't know. Now, I lean heavily toward he will not be back. I would be surprised if he's back. But with Jerry Jones, he kept Jason Garrett for 9.5 seasons.
True.
They had 4 winning seasons. They won 2 playoff games.
They had a bunch of 500 seasons,
a bunch of 8 and 8s and all that.
They didn't have a bunch of terrible seasons.
But there were people for years clamoring for Jason Garrett to lose his job, and he never did it. Look, he's comfortable with Mike McCarthy. Mike McCarthy will gladly let Jerry be the face of the franchise.
True.
Won't push back or anything. You can justify it with the 3 12-win seasons. So I don't think it'll happen, but with Jerry, I think it's possible. Because, look, the 2 of the guys, I know Vrabel is a name out there too, but with Belichick and Dion, even Belichick, they become the face of the franchise. Like, Belichick won't, talk like Dion and be as charismatic, but he's Bill Belichick. He's got six rings. He'll be the face of the franchise. Dion obviously will be the face of the franchise. I don't know that Jerry Jones wants that. So, I mean, if you don't get one of those guys or Vrabel, who you going to get?
Well, Ben Johnson, if you want to get like one of these hot coordinators.
I love Ben Johnson. Again, I don't think it'll be McCarthy, but I think it's on the board.
Well, there's also a possibility that there is, whenever we talk about coaching, keep in mind that at this point last year, Mike Vrabel was still a coach. And then when the hiring cycle started, he was a lot of people's top candidate. Yeah. So the point I'm making is there might be a coach that all of us think is a good coach that a team stupidly fires, that you can hire that guy. You know, like when the Chiefs hired Andy Reid at that, you know, at this point in the season before, he was coaching the Eagles. Yeah. And so there is that piece of it. I'm really big on whatever decisions you make, have a clear line of how you made them. And if after this year you might bring back Mike McCarthy, then there is no reason whatsoever why you wouldn't have given him a contract extension after last year. Correct?
But you know that's what Jerry does. The same thing with Dak. If you're going to sign him,
agree.
Why'd you wait till CD?
Right. And so I think that would be incredibly foolish. I also think that if we all agree the Cowboys need to shake the snow globe in a significant degree, the only way to do that is changing the coach, because you're not changing the quarterback, you're not changing your most vocal player in Micah, and you're not changing your best player on offense in CD. Like, the only way to change who the Cowboys are is change the head coach, because if the quarterback best players are all staying, then it's all going to feel status quo. So I'll take it a step. Kevin Clark said something months ago. I think it was Kevin. I don't want to misquote him, but I think it was smart. So if I am misquoting him, you're welcome, Kevin. That I thought was maybe at the time a little too harsh, but now I think I might agree with, which is if Jerry Jones, you know, genie in a bottle came up and said, you can have this, I guarantee you win a Super Bowl. And the trade is you can never do a press conference after it.
No.
He would not accept it. No. And if he were to bring back Mike McCarthy, then I would totally agree with that take. Because the only thing we know in 2024 that Mike McCarthy is great at is letting Jerry Jones be Jerry Jones with no pushback whatsoever. He might be good at some other things, he might be mediocre at some other things, might be downright bad at some things, but we know he's great at that. So if I were a Cowboys fan, it would be incredibly disheartening if Jerry said, actually the thing that's most important to me is that the second most powerful person in the organization doesn't push back on how I run things at all, which I do think would be a potential, certainly with Dion, certainly with Vrabel, and definitely with Belichick. And those are the names that pop up. Now, maybe it wouldn't be with a first-time head coach, but I think Ben Johnson, who's the name everyone uses, is going to have so many great options that he's that he's not going to pick the Dallas Cowboys.
How about that?
And so it just, I don't think Mike McCarthy is the worst coach in the NFL, but I also think that it would be crazy for the Cowboys to run it all back like they did last year with less talent and expect a different result.
Why don't you go out and say, all right, through the draft, we're going to have a high draft pick. Why don't we prioritize a little bit on defense and a lot on running the ball? Only the Raiders run the ball less effectively than we do. This is not a recipe for success. We did it last year.
You can do all of that, but you don't have to keep Mike McCarthy to do all of that.
What I'm saying is, like, do you feel like there is some massive culture problem that Mike McCarthy is the head of? Or is it just like, hey, we had a bunch of injuries, our quarterback went down, and we can't run the ball? If we run the ball and everybody's healthy, all of a sudden, Mike McCarthy's a coach that wins 13 games again.
I don't think McCarthy's their biggest problem. What I don't like about McCarthy, and this is one of the few things, in the playoffs, I think his lack of attention to detail hurts them. Yeah. And you see it the way some of these games have ended, just clock management. All of that comes into play in these playoff games where the teams are pretty evenly matched.
Of course.
In a lot of cases. And I don't know, at this point, has he lost? I don't think he's lost the team.
So.
But with the loss to Green Bay and all the blowouts this year, that's a little.
Hold on. Yeah,
even before Dak went down.
Yeah, and I think there's a little bit of not revisionist, but recency bias based on they did just win a football game. They were on a 5-game losing streak where they get, to your point, you get blown out at home every week. And even in the game they won, they tried to lose it in the most egregious fashion imaginable, allowing an 80-yard Hail Mary on a dump-off. Like that, and if not for Austin Seibert missing that kick, they might have very well lost that game in overtime. Like, this does not strike me as a well-coached team, doesn't strike me as a team that has defined leadership. It doesn't strike me as a coach who really is able to get his arms around Micah Parsons from a personality standpoint. Like, I'm not, again, I don't think Mike McCarthy is the biggest problem either. I do think it'd be crazy to give him a new contract after this year when you didn't give him a contract extension after another dozen-win season. You like
I like
continuity.
consistency.
Mr.
Continuity, that's my new name.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe here to get more from the show and to check out clips from other shows on FS1.